What the heck is this? That's my orchard. I sprinted across the torn-up earth, my boots kicking up clods of dirt. Morning. You'll need to stay behind the safety line. Lisa didn't look up from her clipboard, taking a slow sip of iced coffee. I grabbed a broken peach branch, its leaves already wilting. This was alive yesterday. You're pouring a goddamn pool on my land. She finally met my gaze, sunglasses glinting. Common space, actually. The HOA voted to improve community amenities. Tax documents flew from my back pocket as I jabbed a finger at the bulldozers. My deed doesn't lie. I've paid taxes on every square foot. Lisa adjusted her hard hat with one manicured hand. File an appeal if you want. But right now? She nodded to the crew. We're pouring concrete at noon. I stepped over the shattered remains of my fence, voice dropping to a growl. You didn't cross a line, Lisa. You nuked it from orbit. Her smile didn't reach her eyes as she leaned in. Lawsuits take years. You really want that fight? I flipped on my phone camera, the red recording light glaring. Why don't you explain that to the judge? Slowly. Imagine waking up one morning to find a sparkling pool right in your backyard, only to discover that it's not yours and that the HOA has taken the liberty to build it there. Homeowners Association is an organization in a residential community that is formed to manage and maintain common areas and enforce community rules. Common powers of an HOA include the ability to approve or deny property modifications, enforce community rules, and levy fines for violations. When you purchase a home in an HOA-governed community, you automatically become a member and are required to pay dues, which fund community services and amenities. However, they also have limitations. For instance, they cannot discriminate against homeowners or impose unreasonable restrictions that infringe on property rights. I stood at my kitchen window, coffee cup frozen midair, staring at what looked like the opening scene of an apocalypse movie. My orchard, my sanctuary, was a mud-churned disaster zone, a swimming pool. A swimming pool was being carved into the very land I'd spent 5 years nurturing. Rows of peach trees were being chewed up by bulldozers, their roots exposed like broken limbs on a battlefield. The foreman, a burly guy named Hank in a neon vest and faded "let's get it done" cap, didn't even look up when I stumbled outside in my slippers and plaid robe. Blueprints, pal, he barked, waving a crumpled sheet as if it explained the desecration of my property. Says right here, common area. Common area? I looked around, heart hammering. The fence I'd mended by hand was gone, ripped out like it was never there. The peach trees I'd grafted myself lay toppled, snapped at the base. A concrete mixer growled like a mechanical beast. Pop music blasted from a crew member's speaker, the cheerful beat mocking my disbelief. Then I saw her, Lisa, HOA president, queen of clipboards, perched on a folding lawn chair under a parasol, wearing a neon pink visor and sipping cucumber water like she was hosting a poolside brunch. Morning, sir, she called out, giving me a lazy wave. Stay off the site, safety reasons. I stormed toward her, my boots sinking in churned up mud, robe flapping. She didn't flinch. Lisa, I said, trying to leash the rage coiling in my chest. What in God's name are you doing building a pool on my land? She blinked at me as if I were speaking another language. Oh, don't be dramatic. This is community green space. Always has been. The HOA's maintained it for years. I stared at her, stunned. Funny, I snapped, because I've paid property taxes on this green space since I bought it. I've got the deed, boundary markers, and surveys. It's my land. Her smile didn't quite hold. If that's true, we'll sort it out with the board. For now, please stay clear. You're holding up progress. Progress. I turned to see a crane lifting steel beams over my barn, rebar stacked where my garlic once grew. This wasn't a mistake. It was an invasion. I reached out to the HOA board, hoping for a straightforward conversation about the misunderstanding. However, my calls and emails went unanswered, and the board remained unresponsive. Frustrated but determined, I decided to gather evidence of the unauthorized construction, including property surveys and photographs. Back inside, tracking mud across my hardwood floors, I pulled out my binder. Deeds, tax receipts, plat maps, all crystal clear. The HOA's boundary ended a full 20 feet before the excavation site. They hadn't just crossed the line, they'd obliterated it and told me to enjoy the chlorine. I called the county. No pool permits had been issued for our neighborhood. Not to the HOA, not to Lisa, not to anyone. I tried the HOA hotline. A robotic loop told me to leave a message. So I started filming every broken fence post, every tire rut cutting through my garden beds, every pallet of pool tiles stacked in my driveway. And then I got the golden moment. Lisa inspecting the site with her signature smirk. "Do you have any proof the HOA owns this land?" I asked, phone recording. She turned and laughed. "Sweetheart, the HOA owns everything you see. You just rent your little corner." That clip would explode later, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That night, Lisa showed up at my door, flanked by two HOA enforcers. Greg, who once fined me $75 for painting my shed in unapproved maroon, and Diane, who filed formal complaints about dandelions. Lisa handed me an envelope with a tight smile. Inside, a $500 check and a typed statement asking me to release the HOA of liability in exchange for goodwill compensation. I almost laughed. "You think this is about money?" I asked, incredulous. "You've got 3 tons of concrete sitting on top of my orchard." She leaned in, voice low. "Don't escalate this. Courts hate land disputes. They drag out, cost a fortune. Be a team player." Team player? My orchard was in ruins. I shut the door in her face and called Ethan, my brother-in-law and a real estate attorney with a reputation for making developers cry. After I explained everything, he said only 2 words: "Send everything." So I did. Photos, invoices, GPS tag boundary markers, HOA newsletters. The next morning, Ethan texted back, "Jackpot." That day I flew my drone again. I mapped every inch of the pool, the raised deck, the trench for plumbing that cut right under my barn. That's when I noticed a logo, Brightstone Property Services. I'd seen that name before, on a truck driven by Lisa's nephew. 10 minutes of online digging confirmed it. Brightstone was owned by Lisa's cousin. The HOA had paid them over $300,000 in just 18 months. When I told Ethan, he went quiet for a moment, then said, "This isn't just trespass. This is fraud, conflict of interest, misuse of funds. You're sitting on a multi-million-dollar case." We began building a war chest, printed receipts, video recordings, drone footage, plat maps, aerial overlays. The final nail came when I remembered an HOA newsletter from 6 months back. Lisa had boasted about a community recreation initiative with pool diagrams. One matched the current layout exactly, right over my property line. That was intent. We filed a notice of intent to sue and scheduled a zoning board meeting. Lisa arrived with a bright smile and a PowerPoint slideshow of children laughing by a pool. Then Ethan plugged in his flash drive. On screen, aerial overlays, construction receipts, Lisa's "The HOA owns everything" quote. The room fell silent. A county official leaned forward. "Ms. Lisa, did you authorize construction on land the HOA doesn't own?" Lisa stammered. Ethan calmly handed out binders of evidence. The board tabled her permit and launched an investigation. Outside in the parking lot, Lisa caught up with us, face pale. "We can settle this," she hissed. "Just name a number." I smiled. "We're already in court. You just don't know it yet." That's when things turned ugly. One morning, I found a pile of mulch dumped on my porch. My mailbox was smashed 3 times in 1 week. I received citations daily: tall grass, unregistered barn, noisy chickens. I installed security cameras, caught someone in flip-flops dumping garbage by my barn. Ethan sent the footage to the sheriff. Then I caught a rental truck pouring concrete at night. The worker told me Lisa said I'd approved it. She was impersonating me. Ethan files cease and desist orders for harassment, fraud, and property damage. Behind the curtains, an HOA meeting was held. But Claire, a disillusioned board member, tipped me off. She recorded Lisa urging them to designate my property as temporary recreation space under a fake emergency clause. Her words, "It's easier to apologize in court than stop now." That was our noose. We posted the audio, video, and documents online. The neighborhood exploded. Over 200 comments. Neighbors demanding Lisa's suspension. Some came to my gate with casseroles and apologies. Others confessed they'd been intimidated for years. Lisa showed up again, furious, red-faced, jabbing her finger at my camera. "Retract your lies," she screamed. I pointed to the blinking red light. "Smile." That video went viral too. The legal basis for my lawsuit against the HOA centers around several violations of my property rights and local laws. I believe that my rights as a property owner were infringed upon when the HOA constructed the pool on my land without my consent. The lawsuit hit like a tidal wave. Trespassing, encroachment, fraud, defamation, destruction of property. In my lawsuit, I am seeking damages amounting to $2 million. This claim encompasses not only the financial loss associated with the unauthorized construction, but also the emotional distress and loss of enjoyment of my property. The damages reflect the significant impact this situation has had on my quality of life, as well as the potential decrease in my property value due to the HOA's actions. Several residents have recounted similar experiences with the HOA, where they felt their rights were overlooked or ignored. One neighbor shared a story about a dispute over fence height regulations that escalated into another legal battle. In court, Lisa's lawyer mumbled about boundary ambiguity and good faith. Ethan dismantled every word: satellite maps, receipts, HOA records, and the damning audio recording. I took the stand. "I'm a retired firefighter," I said. "I bought that land for peace. I planted every tree myself. That orchard gave me something to live for after years of chaos, and they bulldozed it like it was nothing." The judge didn't need long. The verdict: the HOA was liable for $2 million in damages. They were ordered to demolish the pool within 60 days. Lisa was barred from any leadership role pending a financial audit. She sat frozen. Her clipboard kingdom crumbled. 2 weeks later, I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, watching excavators rip up concrete. Neighbors gathered like it was a block party. Some brought folding chairs. One man handed out cookies. Lisa didn't show. She resigned after a chaotic emergency HOA meeting where Claire played the audio on full blast. The audit uncovered fake invoices, undisclosed contracts, and missing HOA funds. The story made local news, then state news. I used part of the settlement to rebuild my barn and turned it into a woodworking shop for veterans and teens. Neighbors donated tools. Someone brought a cherry sapling. Claire was elected HOA president. She banned anonymous complaints and instituted public voting procedures. As wildflowers bloomed where the pool's deep end used to be, I hung a new sign on my gate: private property, respect required, and beneath it, in small letters, "You're not just defending land, you're defending the right to peace." Reporters still call. Lawyers cite my case in seminars. A YouTuber interviewed me in front of my rebuilt orchard. "Would you do it again?" he asked. I nodded. "Every time." Lisa tried to erase me. But I didn't just reclaim my land. I built something better. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful tales of resilience and justice. Your support allows us to keep delivering valuable insights and stories that inform and inspire people everywhere. Thank you for watching Work Story, and see you in the next one.